Be honest. What do you reckon about the hair? Hey there poetry pals, welcome back to another video. This week I'm going to be talking about all the books I read in lockdown and exactly why that means I could never be a proper booktuber. If you are a booktuber fan, you might know that at the moment, although by the time this video comes out it'll be last week, it is reading rush, where people are reading as much as they possibly can in 1 week, and some channels are doing daily vlogs on what they're reading. I want to tell you about the books I've read in lockdown and why you haven't seen a book review from me in a while. Before we go any further, please make sure you're subscribed to my channel and turn on notifications. It really helps small YouTubers like me get found. And do you know what? While we're here, why don't you, one, stick on all of my previous videos on a loop in the background while you're cleaning your kitchen, and two, follow me on social media. I am at JC Alford Poet on all the things, and it would be lovely to have you there. I post amazing content, if you don't say so myself. So I'm going to start with the books I've read, then I'm going to talk about the books I've listened to, then I'm going to talk about the books that I'm currently engaging with, and then the one book I haven't finished and don't intend to. First up is The Wall by John Lancaster. I bought it just before the end of the year in 2019 in Waterstones, and the reason I picked it up is because one of the quotes on it said a 1984 for our times, and personally I just love a bit of dystopian fiction, so I thought I'd give it a go. I'll be honest with you, it was a beautiful sunny day when I started reading it. I sat outside in the sun and I read it all in one day. I thought it was super engaging and really interesting, and the thing I love about especially like world building, especially when it comes to dystopian fiction, is sort of like you're trying to work out what the hell happened, and I think that book does it really well, so check it out. So the next up is The Psychology of Time Travel. I love this book. So it is all about women. All of the main characters are women. Tick. It's also is it yeah, it's sci-fi, right? And it's told in like 3 different timelines, and it all jumps around because it's time travel, duh. But yeah, I'm not gonna say any more than that because I'm worried I'd spoil it. But it's really incredible. It's also a book that does exactly what it says on the tin, because it talks about time travel really, really well. It also talks about psychology really, really well, so you get into the psychology of the characters and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely check that one out. The next one is Pet by Akwaeke Emezi. I actually bought this book because Nick Crozara shared it on their Instagram stories, which was a post by another Instagram account, which I will find and I'll tag it because I can't remember it right now. This was one of them, so I bought it. Oh, cracking. Cracking. This video was originally meant to be a review of this book, and then when I was sort of preparing for the video, I had a little like Google and a YouTube to see what other people had said about it. Yeah, so I found this great review by a channel called Onyx Pages. Turns out she specialises in reviewing sort of sci-fi and fantasy, and did this amazing review of this book, talking about, you know, the world building, the character development and stuff like that. So she does a really in-depth review of this book, so I'm not going to say any more of it. I'm just going to provide the link in the description below. I'm definitely going to her for book recommendations from now on. The next one is Don't Read This Book by Donald Roos, and it's all about time management for creatives, and it helps you like narrow down what projects you want to work on and stuff like that. And I think sort of lockdown was a really good time for me to engage with this book because I had the time to read it and really think about what I want to do. I think lockdown's been a time for a lot of people who've been furloughed and stuff like that to really think their life choices through and how they're gonna work going forward, and this book was super useful. So if there's anyone who's in a like creative work and wants to sort of, you know, up their time management game and you feel exhausted all the time, this is good. Read this book, even though it tells you not to. And the last book I physically read was Notes on a Nervous Planet by Matt Haig. I don't have that with me because it was lent to me and then I lent it on with permission from the original book owner. Calm down, calm down. Yeah, I've done a review on it, so I'll link that in the description and maybe I'll have a little pop-up here. It's a cracking book, and like, even though it was written long before lockdown, it was actually something that was really great to read and engage with. I was halfway through it when lockdown started, struggling with a lot of anxiety regardless, and yeah, that really helped, so check out that book. So one of the things I did when I started 2020 with my no buying book year is I immediately started cheating and got myself an Audible subscription, and so now I want to tell you about some of the books that I've listened to. So the first one that I started on is actually the Expanse series. So I actually got given the first book, so I read the physical one and then I switched to Audible for the rest in the series, and I have to say I loved this series. So you might have noticed a bit of a theme. I love sci-fi, I love fantasy, and I love dystopian stuff and stuff like that. And what I like about this is that it is really well thought out. The world building is very good. I don't know, man, I'm not very good at doing reviews of actual novels and stuff, but I really enjoyed it. The TV show on Amazon is just a lot of people, their first instinct is to say that the books are always better. They are different. The plot moves a bit slower in the books. You get a little bit more build up and you understand the motivations a little bit more, but the TV show is just as good, and yeah, so I like both, and this series was great, so I recommend it. Okay, so the next one I listened to was actually Freakonomics. Cracking. It's a really easy listen. It's not actually a very long book, so I think I listened to it in about a day when I was cleaning the house, and it's really interesting. As someone who has no understanding of economics at all, Freakonomics is really interesting. I'd heard a lot of people talking about it and it was really great. Similarly on the non-fiction vibe, the next one I listened to was actually The Body by Bill Bryson, and it's sort of what it says on the tin. It looks at the human body, all different sections and stuff like that. It was really interesting, and sort of like, when I love podcasts as well, so I particularly like educational podcasts where I can learn stuff, and so that's why I started getting into non-fiction books, which is something that I would never sort of go to read. I don't naturally lean towards non-fiction, but non-fiction audiobooks just feels really great. You can be like, I don't know, cleaning your oven and learning about all sorts. It's great. And then the last thing that I actually listened to on Audible was a really great sci-fi, I know, sci-fi again, sci-fi novel called Vagabonds by Hao Jingfang. Absolutely cracking book. What I like about it is the description of the synopsis that you would give a friend if you were recommending this book sounds the exact same as the synopsis you would give for the Expanse series, which is humanity has colonized Mars. Mars gains its independence from Earth. Shenanigans ensue. Is basically, you know, the setup for both of those, but they both take that in a really different direction. And what I liked about Vagabonds is it really like looks at the individual within the whole of a culture and how different cultures affect, you know, people's outview on life. Is really good. I really enjoyed it. It is translated, so it's originally written in Chinese, so sometimes that translation maybe isn't as smooth, but I also think that the way that it's translated is like an art form in itself, and it really makes you think about how that is being expressed. So I found it really interesting. Give it a watch. Okay, so the things that I am currently reading. The book that I am physically currently reading is Girl, Woman, Other. Recommended to me loads and loads of times, finally got around to buying it, and I love it. I'm only a couple of chapters in, but I've spoken to a few friends about this and they find the sort of writing and narrative style quite difficult sometimes. And like, yeah, it doesn't have the most punctuation and it's written very sort of like stream of consciousness vibes, but not as, I don't think it's true stream of consciousness, but it's definitely towards that lane. And so it can be quite difficult to keep track of, but I actually really enjoyed it. I started reading it with a glass of wine and I immediately got the feeling that I was sat in a bar with these characters whilst they were telling me about their life story, and I really enjoyed that. It was like sitting down with a friend, and they, you know how it is when you're sitting down with someone in a pub and they're telling you a story and they jump around loads, and so you're like, wait, what? It's kind of like that, and I really enjoy that book. I'm loving it so far. So yeah, if you haven't, read it. It's a reason, there's a reason why it's said to be so good. It's because it is. It is. The hype is real. The other thing that I'm currently working through at the moment is Me and White Supremacy by Layla Saad. I've actually got that one on Audible. The idea is that it's actually a 28-day workbook and you learn about white supremacy and what that means for you as a white person with privilege and how you can work through that, learn from it, use it. It's a really challenging book and it's all about doing the work and stuff like that, and I thoroughly recommend it. It's powerful and it makes me uncomfortable, but it's important. So, and I know you know, the conversation has sort of died down on social media and I really think that's a shame, and so yeah, keep working, keep reading, keep learning, keep doing what you can to make this situation better. Now, the one book that I have tried to read but didn't finish did feature in my 27 things to do before I turn 27, which is The Ground Beneath Her Feet by Salman Rushdie. Did I put it away? This one. As an English Lit graduate, I have spent far too long stressing out about all the books I should have read and all the you know, things you should do and understand and stuff like that. And do you know what? I'm bloody sick of it. I loved Rushdie's Satanic Verses. I read it at a very key time in my early adult life. And so I thought that I would love all his other works. Turns out that's not true. Like the dense poetic prose of these novels, some people love, and I get it, but I just couldn't engage with it as much. I had a really interesting chat with my future mother-in-law about it, and she says that she found this book and Midnight's Children really, really interesting, but because it was about a time in history that she was living through, which is all about the, you know, the partition of India and the independence and all of that. So it was something that she was living through. She had friends who were from there and so was really engaged with that. It's something that isn't massively covered in UK schools, and that's obviously terrible. So because I didn't have that knowledge, I really struggled with this, and I think that if I was going to come back to this, I would love to do some more research into that period in history so I could like situate it in the context in which it's set. But the reason that I liked Satanic Verses is because that is like rooted in religion, and that is something that I do understand, having grown up in a religious family, so I was really able to engage with it on that sense, and I thought it was just an interesting sort of conversation. So if you're watching this and you're like, Josie, why don't you know more about this time in history, you should read this, then please let me know in the comments below if you've got any useful resources where I can learn more and then, you know, try this book again. And that's it. That's all the books that I've read in lockdown. And this is the reason why I could never be a proper booktuber, because they're putting out books like Because they're putting out videos like 2 or 3 times a week with all these new books that they're recommending and reading, and they do their to be read lists and stuff like that. And I find that so intimidating. That's why I've never done like the BookTube newbie tag or anything like that. It's because that's not what this channel is ever gonna be. I just don't read enough. For me, fiction is an escape, which you can see through the fact that I've read so many like sci-fi and fantasy novels. By the way, if you have any recommendations, stick them in the comments below, especially recommendations of authors and stories that include, you know, Black, Asian, queer, all of that. I wanna know, I wanna know. Okay, for me, fiction is an escape. And despite the English literature degree, I just don't enjoy analysing novels that much, and I just don't think that's the sort of vibe I want my channel to have. I prefer to just enjoy them and get lost in them. Life is too short to read all the books. In fact, it has been demonstrated to be impossible that you can never read all the books, so I am determined not to let myself get stressed out by that. So I'm just gonna read the books I want, and if it is just trashy sci-fi and fantasy, then cool, whatever. These shelves are full of books from my degrees that I didn't read and like should have done, and feeling so weighed down by it. And actually, do you know what? Bugger it. I'm just gonna read what I want. And I'm not even gonna put the pressure of having to make YouTube videos about them. I might do every now and then. So if you are looking for a BookTube channel that you want to get involved in and see what people are reading, here are a couple of smaller ones that I personally really enjoy. And yeah, some of them are my friends, so whatever. The first one is Nick Crozara. They've just started and they are amazing and super cute, and they talk lots and lots about books, so yeah. The next one, the channel is called Ladette M, all one word. And yeah, she did my masters with me. She writes a lot of like young adult fantasy and stuff, so really engages with that, and I thoroughly recommend. And then the other one I mentioned earlier is Onyx Pages. She specialises in analysing sci-fi and fantasy. I totally rate it. So yeah, I'm not a booktuber and I don't intend to be. I will do videos analysing poetry collections though, because that is something that I feel like isn't talked about as much in the booktube community, and it's also something that I feel really comfortable like getting into and analysing. So yeah, I will make videos about books, but they will be poetry. Maybe every now and then I'll get you in the loop about what I've been reading, but guess what? It won't be a huge amount, and you'll notice that none of the books that I've read in lockdown have been poetry. For me, at the moment, poetry feels too real. I've been really looking for escapes, and I think that that's what's been reflected in that. I know a lot of people have been turning to poetry in it, and I definitely do intend to start reading more poetry again, but especially for the first couple of months when we were all a bit anxious there, I needed to just stick to fantasy. My question to you is, have you ever lied about reading a book? And if so, which book was it? I read a statistic somewhere that 1984 is the most lied about book, as in people, especially in the UK, lie about having read it. And I'll confess to you, I have lied about reading 1984, but I've read it now. I promise. Also, one of the videos that I thought I would do is talking about my book collection. I know I watch a lot of booktubers who have their like gorgeous things, and they do bookshelf tours and they do it by colour, and that's weird to me. But I thought I could get all my books out and stack them up by read and unread, ones that came from my degree and ones that didn't. Also like breaking them down by gender and who wrote them as well, and basically calling myself out at the lack of diversity in my book collection. If that's a video you want to see, let me know in the comments below, because I definitely will do that. So that's it for this week's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all next week. Bye!